All right, guys, it is time to test out the new setup for my Onefinity. I didn't show you the entire process of putting it all together because there's other videos for that. I will show you here quick. That's the spindle. This is the dust collection setup. So I've got it actually running underneath right now. There's an arm that grabs it right there. This will come up and over and get hung onto there and hung onto there, and then the mechanism is in here. That's not really important right now. Got that up and running. There is the VFD. I kind of made it its own little cubby down here so that I can keep it sort of protected but also easy to access. I didn't want it on the wall on the back. That wasn't going to work very well. I did flatten the wasteboard after rearranging all of this and re-screwing it down. You know, I have sunken screws in the four corners to hold it to my workbench so that it doesn't shift around or anything. I did re-flatten the wasteboard, and I did that with this big ugly guy. Just some junky 1.5-inch bit that did a good enough job. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be flat. And I did it manually just by pushing the button and moving it side to side and front to back until the whole thing was done. I set a Z height and never touched that again. And I kind of did that just to get familiar with running the machine and knowing how to push the buttons on here. But now we are actually going to set up and do my first real carve on it. The other thing I did, you can see here, for example, I can't get all the way to the end of my wasteboard. I can't get all the way to the end of my wasteboard all the way around. You know, this is kind of wasted space back here a little bit. That spindle cannot access this. But what it did was give me a lip that I could register this fence off of. So this is a square piece and this is a square piece. I should say they have parallel edges. So I could push this one up against that and I could push this one up against that. And then I intended to take this 1/4-inch bit and do a straight line here and square that, and do a straight line here and square that, to make it perfectly square with the direction of travel, the X and the Y on the CNC machine. But I'm not sure that that's even worth doing because I put it square in here and it's close enough to perfect. If I find that pieces are trying to walk out of there, then maybe I will do that later. But for now, I put my fence to the back like that. And this is a tip I got from a Jay Bates video a long time ago. Rather than registering your workpiece to the front and then taking whatever clamps you're using and have to pull them towards you to clamp them down and working over your workpiece, I like to have the fence in the back. That made a lot of sense to me when I saw him say that. And now all I have to do is push these things forward and pull them back, and I'm not leaning over my work to get the work holding in and out of the way. So anyway, we're set up, we are ready to go. I've got a file going on easel over there. I've got to shove it into the Masso and hit start, and we're gonna see our first actual carve go. All right, so we are all clamped in. The work is held down. Dust collection is on. You can see through that little window in here if I focus correctly. Got a little bit of dust on there. You can see down in there, so I can kind of monitor what's going on. And then file is ready to go. It looks kind of like a glorified hockey puck, and I'll show you what it is when we get done with it. But to my knowledge, all I have to do is push cycle start, and hopefully this thing actually kicks the spindle and the dust collection on at the same time. I'm paying attention for that. In case I'm wrong, I think I can hit escape and stop it before it does anything too crazy. But let's just see here. Nope, nope, nope. So it didn't turn on the spindle. It didn't turn on the dust collection. That's something I'm going to have to figure out myself. Maybe because I didn't have a number in here. We're going to go with, is it 12,000? Oh, 120,000. 120,000 seems a little fast, doesn't it? All right. Speed, spindle on. Well, you can't see it, but you can hear it. And then flood coolant means turns dust on. Okay, I'm going to plug in an earplug. Now we'll actually start it and see what happens. So I'm really trying to take a deep cut here. It's kind of like all that I can make that bit reach. And I definitely have the dust boot adjusted wrong for that right now. That's okay because I quit it and now I just have to run it back up and get it out of the way. So we did a pretty good job. My intention was never to be able to cut this all the way out because that's just longer than any bit that I have. I'm going to have to use a flush trim bit to finish cutting it out over on the router table. But that did about what I wanted it to. I just have to figure out how to adjust the height of this so that it can finish the last pass or two that it was going to make. Let's get that out of there and try again. So here's the first one. I took the piece out and cut it off just so I had a new blank slate to start with. You can see this is the last step it was trying to take down, and that was just too much. That dust boot was not going to survive being drug around with that. We were going to run into some problems. So I changed the file a little bit because it was a little bit too aggressive. I'm being timid with it. I'm just trying to learn it, so I'm not trying to wreck anything while I'm learning it. So I made the file less aggressive, and then I shoved this up as high as I could go, which is limited by the collar that holds the spindle in place. So if I move the spindle further down, and I don't see why that would be a problem, then I'd be able to get this higher up. But as it is right now, if I hold this, if I hold this down here towards the back, you can see that that bit is already something like a ½ inch below the height of those whiskers. So it's not providing the suction. It's not really sealing up very well with the whiskers like it's intended to. But if you look around here, there really isn't that big of a mess. There's not that many chips that got out. That means there's enough suction from the hose itself that it pulled most of that up and away. So anyway, we are going to re-zero on a next location and finish making these across these boards, make sure everything's working really the way I want it to, and then I'll show you what these are supposed to be when I'm done with them. Here we go. All right, so we just finished up the last pass on the last one of these. And I know I could have gone in the computer and set up to have 5 or 6 of these things across and perfectly space them out and hit start and let it do it all at once. But this being the first time I was using this machine, I wanted to do it manually. I wanted to have the repetition of moving it over, resetting 0, starting the spindle, starting the vacuum, which I know there's an automatic way that I don't have figured out yet. Maybe you guys can point me in that direction. And telling it to start. The other thing that I noticed was that, well, not that I noticed, I knew that I had to move over 5 inches to be exactly, so this edge would touch this edge. If I moved over anything over 5 inches, I was good. So I wanted to set exactly 5 1/8 inches over every time I re-zeroed it. And I wasn't really sure how to do that, but I thought, let's just try this now that we've gotten this part that far over. 5.125. Enter. Okay, so now I reset my 0. You can even see it's just outside of that circle. So then if I make that the new 0, does that do what I want it to? Let's go to work origin. Nope. So how... I'm missing something. If I wanted to make that thing move left or right or front or back a very specific amount, exactly 5 inches, let's say, is there a way I can type 5 inches in here, make it go, and set that as the new 0? If you know the answer to that, let me know. Anyway, at this point, I can take this out and start cutting it out on the bandsaw and then flush trimming it to exactly right. Well, the finish is all dry. Let's see if the sizes line up. So I used the exact same file to cut these out with the old Onefinity setup and with the new one. And the fit on the pocket was perfect on the old setup. So there we go. It didn't change a thing with all that monkeying around. The precision is still right there. So I've made a few of these in the past, and I have put a little bit of glue in the bottom of it, but I don't think it's necessary. In fact, one I put glue in, one I did not put glue in. Neither one of them has come apart yet. That has a lip on it. There. It had a burr on it after lopping it off on the miter saw there. So now I have a whole bunch of nice little quivers that I can store all my arrows in and keep them from getting wrecked, keep them organized, keep them separated. And it's pretty balanced too. Like, you have to really, with the thickness and the weight of that piece of walnut, you really have to go far with it. There we go. You really have to want to tip it over before it actually tips over. So I've been using 2 of these, like I said, for a couple of weeks now, and decided I needed a few more of them. On that note, you think this is a product I should sell? You think anybody out there would want these? Do any of you want these? Do you want to be able to sell them yourselves? It's super simple. I just had to work out the diameter that actually fit. Measuring and measuring doesn't translate into exactly the right fit. I had to do a lot of guess and checking until I ended up here. But anyway, I think we're gonna call that a day. The Elite is awesome. My quivers are working great. I do wish they made like a brown or black PVC pipe. Maybe they do, and I haven't looked very hard. The white doesn't look as great, but these are also going to get kicked around in the yard a ton, so walnut was pretty unnecessary. I was looking for maple or ash in my inventory, and I just didn't have anything at the thickness I wanted to accommodate that. But no, the video didn't glitch out. That was just a dramatic pause. I think we're done. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.